Tonight on Cult Pop, we're going to attend day 3 of Motor City Nightmare's first fall convention. The first 2 episodes were fantastic. This one's also great, so stay tuned. With me now is screenwriter and actor Todd Farmer. Todd, really happy to have you on the show right now, and I want to jump right into it, and we'll let people know first off, Todd wrote Jason X. A lot of people like that. That's a cult favorite. Drive Angry, which is a favorite of mine. I really enjoy that. And here in Michigan, My Bloody Valentine, the remake, is a cult favorite here. A lot of people get together, watch that movie, and you acted in a lot of different things. But let's jump right in and talk about your challenges as a writer and as an actor. And specifically, when you write, do you get to, now that you've got 3 films under your belt and you start going, do you say, hey, I've written this, and do you write roles specifically with yourself in mind now, or do you just write a good story and if there happens to be a spot for you, there it is?
Certainly with Drive Angry, we did that. Co-wrote that with the director, Patrick Lussier, and we knew going in that I was likely going to play sort of a rip on the My Bloody Valentine character. And but that wasn't planned. That was just it was a last minute thing. In fact, Patrick called me up because to let me know that one of the that they were likely going to cast an actor who was from Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, and which is not a bad thing. But I knew that there was a lot of special effects, and that's difficult to shoot that stuff because you get covered in blood, and then you got to shower and clean and make up and get back in a different costume. Then you do it all over again. It's exhausting, and you have to do it fast. And this was a tight budget. And then there was the sex stuff, which is never easy to film. And so Patrick was saying, he was telling me this stuff, and I was getting more and more annoyed because I was like, what if we run out of time? What if this guy, not that they're not great actors there, but what if they just don't know? Because this is sort of a small role. And he said, yeah, no, will you do it? And so that's kind of how it started.
And you have a great role. Everybody kind of loves that. I'm sure you get a lot of people talking to you about that.
It's a fun role. Yeah, the biggest question is, were you guys really doing it? Yeah, morons. We were really doing it. No, we weren't doing it.
I'd like to switch gears and talk a little bit about Jason X. That's something you wrote. Talk about some of the challenges of jumping onto something that's been around for so long. And taking it in a different direction. Yeah. And so you're writing and you've got a challenge. Some people are going to attack you for it, but some people really adore the hell out of that movie. Yeah. So talk about the challenges of taking on characters that have been established and putting your own spin to it.
It's an interesting thing to come in for 2 reasons. One, there's a history, and there are people who are madly loyal to the series. And so if you do something different, you run the risk of pissing them off, basically. And but also, I like the Friday the 13th franchise the most because it feels like each movie is very different. And even though a lot of them take place at Crystal Lake and they have a lot of similarities, each one story-wise is very different. And I always thought that was unique. And then so when it came time to do this movie, originally Freddy vs. Jason was being filmed at the time, and it had been in development for a long time. Actually, it wasn't being filmed, but it was in development. And they said, they didn't know when it was going to come out or when it was going to film, when anything was going to happen. And so what we wanted to do was tell another Jason story that didn't impact anything they were doing. So it's not like we could tell a story that they would then have to implement in their movie. So
Standalone.
Right. So I basically said, look, let's set it so that it still exists in the world, but let's set it in the future. And originally I pitched Blade Runner. And then everybody came back and said, no, we can't afford that. And I was like, well, what about Alien? And they're like, okay, we could do that. And so that's how it was born.
Now, just kind of a side question, because I'm interested, you mentioned, well, no, we can't afford that. Does that ever, specifically for screenwriting now, does that ever go into your thought process in writing? I'm not going to write this because they'll never be able to film it.
Yes, it didn't used to. Used to, we would write whatever our imagination could come up with, because you can always go backwards. Nowadays, you pretty much know going in what your budget's going to be. If it's anything that is an original idea, you're not going to have a budget because original ideas just don't sell. And Drive Angry was an original idea, and it didn't do very well at the box office. My Bloody Valentine was a remake, and it was $100 million. So I mean, I know a lot of people complain about the remakes, but you guys got to quit going if you don't want them.
Some of my fans will have my ass if I don't ask you a lot about My Bloody Valentine.
Well, it was
writing
fun.
it, if you could share some stories about writing and some of the acting that went on in there. You had a fun role in that one too.
Yeah, it was a great role. It was a role that I said, that's the one that Patrick came to me and said, would you do it? But we didn't know anything really about 3D at that point. This was basically the first live action 3D movie. And so we're kind of responsible for, helping get 3D off the ground. But we didn't know. We thought it was Jaws 3D or Friday the 13th 3D. We didn't realize that it was what 3D was then. It was beautiful. And once we started shooting, we started seeing it on the cameras. The depth and you're really inside the movie. So that kind of changed everything. It changed the way we thought. That changed. And so while we never really wrote My Bloody Valentine 3D to be 3D, because we didn't think about it. Drive Angry we did, because we sort of knew at that point because we had learned. But wow, it was such a fun movie, such a great cast and crew. And I was there for about a week just to shoot my scene. With Drive Angry, it was completely different. I was there the entire time.
Now, are there challenges in shooting? Now, writing, obviously, you're going to write in a couple of scenes where it's going to utilize 3D. But in the shooting, obviously, I know the equipment and all that type of stuff. But did you notice being on set that it took 5 or 6 more takes? Or did there not seem to be a lot of difference in the shooting process?
No, they were pretty quick for the shooting. The problem basically is just the size of the camera. Because the cameras have gotten smaller and smaller through the years. But back then, that red camera was the size of a refrigerator. And we were shooting in a mine that was 5'5" at the highest, I think. So, it was challenging. We would, for both Valentine and Drive Angry, we would only use certain cars that the camera could fit in. Some cars are too small on the inside, so you can't use them. It's all of that, becomes a part of the thinking and how you go about. It even becomes a part of the writing too. So, but that's what I like about it. The longer you do it, the more you pick up little tricks and things like that. So it's fun.
I'm going to talk, we're going to switch gears a second, but I am going to give you an opportunity to talk about what's going on now and how people can look you up and get in contact and other shows to see you. But I like to ask people that I meet at these type of situations, at conventions or different things, talk a little bit about the experience you're having, because I think it's very unique to genre, be it science fiction or horror, where you meet fans that are so passionate, because a lot of actors don't really get the opportunity unless it's some weird thing. You're at dinner and say, hey, I love you. But here you get an opportunity to kind of interact with people and say, I enjoyed the hell out of your work. I like your writing. Your acting in that was great. And so you get to have, at arm's length, a nice little, a nice interaction with fans. And I've found it very interesting to talk to actors about what they think about that. So if you'd share your thoughts on that.
Well, it's funny because I'm walking around the room and I'm seeing other actors, and for me, it can be uncomfortable. Truth be told. When someone comes up and they say, hey, I'm a huge fan, and I'm just like, I'm kind of a normal guy. Yeah. I never thought of screenwriting or acting as something any more glorious than when I used to build houses. And so I'm just sort of kind of laid back in that aspect. But yet I'm walking around the room going, oh, there's Tom Atkins. And so I'm doing the same thing that they sometimes do to me. So it makes sense. But this has been a fun show. And it's funny because there's a lot of times, this is something I've seen happen in the past, and that is fans will watch something and they will feel an ownership to it, an entitlement to that piece of work. And so a lot of times some fans can be, not even a lot of times, there are some fans out there that can be, it's hard to describe, but they can come up and sort of feel that you owe them your time and explanation, and that. I haven't had that at all here. Good. It's been really a great group of people. It's been fantastic. So
I'm glad to hear that, because mostly the stories shared are some great ones, and then there's some that aren't so great about some actors where there's a couple in particular I can think of that wear gloves because of interacting with fans. They want to wear gloves. So I'm glad to hear it's been positive with you. Before we run out of time, I want to talk about, bring people up to speed, what's going on in your life now, what can we help you promote, and then we'll send people to your website, Facebook, things of that nature.
There, at the moment, the way the business runs, there's nothing I can tell you that I'm working on.
Okay.
I have to wait for them to tell you. But I did turn in the script, I guess it was Friday of last week. And so I am awaiting notes.
Okay.
And then Patrick Lussier and I were talking about, and he and I did Drive Angry and My Bloody Valentine, and we wrote a gazillion scripts that never got made, Halloween 3D and so on. Halloween 3D is how I met Tyler Mane, in fact. But Lucy and I are looking at a remake, and we like it, and it's one we've been looking at for a long time. And so, people, I never had a problem with remakes, and for one of the main reasons is that I love The Fly and I love The Thing, and those are remakes.
I
And
agree 100%. I don't mind remakes either.
Yeah.
Can you tell people, website, Facebook, how people can learn more about you if they want to get in touch?
I'm Todd_Farmer on Twitter. And Google me and my website will come up. It's wendigo.com.
Okay.
But I very rarely use it. I'm mostly a Twitter, Instagram kind of guy.
Okay, great. Hey, I appreciate you taking the time. It's
been my pleasure.
It's been my pleasure to have you on. We will definitely keep in touch when you get these other projects coming out.
Great.
We'll help promote, and
Perfect.
we'll stay in touch and let people know about it. But it's been a real pleasure, and I thank you for being on.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for more Cult Pop. Welcome back to Cult Pop. I am just absolutely delighted to have with me Mr. Tom Atkins. Tom, it is an absolute delight of mine to have you on the show. I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm truly pleased to have you on the show today, so thank you very much, first
Thanks,
off.
Jim. Thanks for having me in here.
Want to just jump right in. There's so much to talk about, and this is a genre convention, so we're going to jump in and talk about some of your goodies here. Sure. Halloween 3. Halloween 3 is an absolute classic,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering if you could share a story or maybe an anecdote about working on that film.
I had a lot of people come up as soon after it came out and said how they hated it because Michael Myers wasn't in it, and I told them same thing I tell everybody. It didn't matter. I don't care if Michael Myers was in the thing or not. It was a job to me. So John and Tommy asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said, yeah, sure. I liked the script, and I didn't have a second thought about Michael Myers at all. And as it turned out, it's a really terrific standalone movie of its own, with a story of its own. And it was John Carpenter's intent to tell a different Halloween story with every Halloween movie that he made. But the money people said, no, Michael Myers is the guy, he's making all the money, and do not make any other movies past this one. This is in the shoot, so yes, you can make this, but none others. And that was the end of his anthology dream of Halloween movies.
Excellent, thanks for sharing
I
that.
met Stacy Keach, or not Stacy Keach, Stacy Nelkin, on the, they called me up one day and said, we're looking for the girl and we're having trouble. We got 3 or 4 girls coming in today, and come over and read with them, be with them. I said, yeah, sure. So I don't remember when the first or second one was, but Stacy came into the room and we read, and as soon as she walked out, everybody went, that's it, she's the one. Cute, huh? We had a great time working together. I thought it was a terrific film.
It really is loved, and as the years have gone on, people realize now what the vision was and how this was an incredible standalone film. Escape from New York, another classic.
Yeah.
What's your little story?
Escape from New York. Now I'll tell you a side story about that. Adrienne Barbeau is a dear friend of mine. She was in Escape from New York. We did 4 films together, Adrienne and I. We have never been on screen together in any of the 4 films. Now I'll go bats trying to remember the 4. But it was Escape from New York, The Fog, Two Evil Eyes, and Creepshow. All 4 of those films we were in never on screen. Never had a scene together. I think I talked to her on The Fog over the phone or something, maybe. I can't remember. Yeah.
Excellent.
Now, the movie itself, again, it was, we had a great time making it. I loved working with Lee Van Cleef, and Chucky Cypher's another old pal. We sort of ran the prison and jammed Snake up with his beeper and bomb in his neck and sent him in with a limited time to get the president out. And but again, people say, you know, what was it like to work on that film? Wow, Manhattan, how awful they made it and everything. But I worked at Sepulveda Dam and the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena with Lee, and all of our stuff was in LA, except I did get to do the opening of walking down past the Statue of Liberty at the very opening shot when guys were trying to row their way out on a raft or something. We blow them up with a helicopter gunship. And so I never went to St. Louis. I never even met Adrienne on that movie, you know, got to see her or Ernest Borgnine or any of the people in the bowels of the apocalyptic Manhattan prison. Yeah, it's one of those things about movies, you know, that everybody,
I think a lot of people don't get that.
Everybody thinks
right?
you all live on the same street and you all hang out together, and if you're in a movie together, how can you not be in a scene with each other? But Adrienne and I are a perfect example.
I talked with Tom Noonan last year, and he spoke the same thing about, oh, what was it like to work with so-and-so? Well, even though we were in the same film,
Yeah,
we didn't
never
act
saw
together.
them. Yeah.
Moving on, The Fog, another classic. Some
I
thoughts
love
about
The
that
Fog.
one?
It was a sweet movie. Kind of an old-fashioned ghost story. John was real worried about making it, that it would work. So he added some stings and scares at the beginning with the gas station hose flopping out and crap falling off store shelves and the weird fog. But I love the opening of the old man Houseman telling stories to kids around the campfire, and it goes up to black and then comes down on Bodega Bay. Only, what the hell was it? I can't even remember the name of the town in
Oh, it escapes me now, too.
yeah. But we had a lovely time shooting that. I loved it. All up in Northern California, around Bodega Bay and Inverness, and Bodega Bay is where Hitchcock shot The Birds. It was all in that area. Point Reyes Lighthouse, where Adrienne was the top of the supposed lighthouse. Gorgeous, beautiful part of the country.
That is, at the very least, that must have been an amazing place to film when you're done shooting for the day. What an amazing place to be.
Well, you know, we all stayed in this wonderful old, well, I don't know how old it was, but it was a kind of rustic A-frame motel. Each unit was its own A-frame with a wood-burning stove. So you had a little pile of wood outside every night. When you came in, you could get a fire going, and just for the fun of it. And yeah, it was great. John and Adrienne were together then. They loved it so much they bought a house up there, Inverness, with a grass roof and cedar and glass.
Beautiful country.
Yeah, sod roof. It was wonderful.
Now, switching kind of gears from the genre, Lethal Weapon. You are loved for Lethal Weapon. I see people coming up and talking to you about that at this convention.
Well, you know, of all the movies I've made, Night of the Creeps is my favorite because it's so, it was just so much fun to do. I love doing that more than anything. I love Freddie Decker and the way he wrote it and directed it, and I was always sorry that it never paid off for him. It just never ran. But Lethal Weapon was the most successful movie I've ever been in that it made more money than anything. And it was seen by everybody in the world seemed to have seen it 10 times, you know, like they
Quoting lines to you.
I got a lot of work out of that movie, and I was only in 2 scenes, but they were golden scenes, in the bank with Danny, and then getting killed by Gary Madman Busey from the helicopter in my house, on top of Palos Verdes.
And I'm sure people bring that up once in a while with Gary Busey's new claim
Oh,
to
yeah.
fame and craziness
Yeah.
that, you got done in by Busey. I'd like to switch, and we talked off camera about your time in television and doing stuff. You're constantly in something. You're always involved in television or film or something.
Yeah.
And when you look at your IMDb, you're associated with things like MASH, an all-time classic, St. Elsewhere, fun things like T.J. Hooker. And right on through to today, being involved in the just fun, crazy stuff.
T.J. Hooker. I forgot about
yeah.
T.J. Hooker,
And just being involved in that stuff. I'm wondering if you've got a story, great, but just the differences of film when you're on set and you're making friends, and it might be a 2 or 3 week process. And I think with the TV stuff, you just come in for a day or 2, shoot your stuff and out. Or?
Yeah, for most of it, it was kind of like that. No, most of the ones I did, if they took a week to shoot, I was on it for most of the week. I didn't play it a little day, one day in, one day out. But MASH was great. Harry Morgan and Alan Alda, and oh God, I can't remember the guy. That doesn't matter. But we had a wonderful time doing that, and I had a line that I kind of ad-libbed into it. And Alan Alda said, "Wow, I love that line. Leave that, when we rehearsed it," he said, "I love that, it's great. Keep that. So, we had a good time shooting that. But my favorite of all the episodic things I did, I enjoyed doing Luke Grant. I did a couple of those, and I think I might have done more than one T.J. Hooker.
I think, yes.
I'm not sure. But Jimmy Garner and the Rockford Files,
Rockford
they
Files,
were the best.
I remember that
did
show. Love it.
6 or 7 of them as a recurring character, Lieutenant Alex Steele. And then we made movies of the week for CBS, full-length 90-minute things in the 90s for Rockford Files, and I was promoted to Commander Alex Steele. Jimmy was the best. He's the best actor I ever met, and the best man I ever met. Just a great guy.
Kind words.
He was the best.
That show still, it lives on, and it aged so well. Some shows, you can watch it today.
It does.
It ages
It does.
well.
Every once in a while, I'll see it on MeTV or one of those old channels, and I think, not bad.
Well, just another example of your impressive work. Before we wrap up, a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Your experience here at this convention. It's got to be rewarding as a man who's put so much time and devoted so much time to acting, and you've made so many hours of enjoyment for people.
Yeah.
And then they come to this convention and say, "Dan, thanks.
Yeah.
I loved you in this. I loved you in that. You were fantastic in this." Kind of talk for a minute or two about that experience coming
Well,
to a
it's the
convention.
whole reason for coming to conventions, and I usually do maybe 2 or 3 a year at the most. This year it's a little more, I think, but I love meeting the fans and shooting the breeze with them. They're a bizarre and wonderful bunch of human beings. And you might think the way they dress up, some of them, that they are way on the bizarre side, but they're not. They're really terrific. Some are young, which is surprising to me, and have discovered these old movies in their youth. And some of them are my age, and saw them when they first came out and have loved them ever since. Yeah, I love the fans. It's the whole reason I wouldn't have a life if it wasn't for them, in a way, They're the ones that buy the tickets and see the shows and go to the stuff.
Well said. Before I let you go, is there a website, a Facebook, or anything that I should promote so people can
Not
see
a
more?
thing. I'm
Okay.
sad to say I don't do any of that stuff.
You'd be surprised how
old-fashioned
many
guy,
times I
just-
get that. That's
I don't
great.
participate in any of that.
Sure, you want your privacy. Is there anything that people should be looking for down the line? Any type of shows or films that you're
They
proud
can
of?
come to Pittsburgh in December and see me do Scrooge for the 8th year in a musical Christmas Carol for the Pittsburgh CLO at the Buy-In Theater, December 1 up through December 23.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Adkins, it's been my thrill to have you on the show today.
Oh, thanks,
And
Jim.
I want to thank you from my heart for all the hours of enjoyment, and for all the fans that can't come here or can't thank you. Thanks for the hundreds of hours of enjoyment you've brought me in your films and your television work and all that. And you're really a fantastic actor. I really enjoyed your work, and I'm real pleased to have met
sure.
you.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you
It was
much,
good
sir.
talking with
Appreciate
you.
it. Stay tuned for more Cult Pop. What a great show. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoy bringing it to you. As always, check out the website, www.cultpop.com. We'll see you next time.